Right, so these are some sound design tips for Bitwig. So the first one is using effects layer and macros to make like a unison detuning parallel processing thing. So basically, yeah, we're going to get an effects layer and a frequency shifter. We put the mix at 100%, and then for now we're just going to put the shift at 0. Now we're going to get a macro. And we're going to map this, we'll map this onto the shift. And then this one to the range. Make this one bipolar, and by clicking this plus minus symbol. And then that means we can move the range up or down. So basically what this does is this sets the range for the frequency shifting. So like at a low range, the shift knob will barely make any difference. So, but at a high range, the shift knob will have make a much bigger difference. So you can shift it down or up. So we want it fairly subtle for this. But basically what we're going to do now, we're just going to duplicate these. I'm going to make 4 of them for now. And then basically these macros will already be mapped to them, so that it can control the range of all of them. But we need to change the way the shift is mapped to them, because we want the shift macro to actually spread out the frequencies. So basically it will like push the pitch up of one of the layers up by a bit, and then with one of the others like down, push the pitch down by about the same amount, and like just sort of spreading them all out. So to do that, we could set the shift amount for this one to, so basically if we set one of them to 2, one of them to 1, one of them to -1, and one of them to -2. That will mean the shift knob will spread out the pitches, but we're not actually going to do exactly those numbers. We're just going to do like 1.99. We're just going to get kind of close. Actually, this one was already 2, so we'll make this one 1.99. This one we'll make like 1.02. This one makes like -97. This one we could just go -2. So now this shift knob, you can see it's pulling down this one, but this one is pulling it up. So we want to control the range as well. So you can hear it makes a massive difference when it's like that. So another thing I like doing, another thing you can do is putting an LFO on the macro now, and that can sound good. So give it a bit of vibrato, but a bit more kind of complicated vibrato than just being on the pitch of one layer. It'll be changing the amount of the pitches spread out. Try it on the range one as well. So it obviously sounds better when the sound going into it is a bit more than this. It's just quite a simple sound. we can see that the volume coming out of it is a bit higher as well, so I'm just going to pull the gain down a bit. Another thing that you can do is putting delays in this as well, and putting macros on the delay times to spread those out. So I'm just going to pull the delay time right down for now. Take off the filtering, turn down the feedback, put the mix fully up. And now we're going to put some macros on this. So actually just one macro for this one. And basically, so the range of this whole delay time is 5 seconds. And when you modulate it, the range is +5. So basically, if we want to spread it out by up to a second, we could do +1. But that's actually quite a long time, so maybe we'll spread it out up to +5. So we'll keep the first, we will spread it out to +1 actually, and then we can just, you can always just turn the knob a bit less and it won't spread it out quite so much. So we'll leave this one where it is. And then we'll duplicate it, just control click, and then it's in this layer as well. So on this one, if we modulate it by +0.25, and then just going to duplicate it into these layers, and change the modulation amounts. So you know, because that knob's not going to affect this one at all. So I'd rather it affects all of them. So I'm going to do this one +0.25, this one +5, 7.5, +1. See how that sounds a bit like reverb now, kind of. So then it like without it dies out straight away. So it still does die out a bit too suddenly, but it's sort of a bit later, and yeah, it just sounds like the start of a reverb. Trying a bit of feedback could make it last a bit longer as well. So yeah, it does sound like a bit like reverb now. Another thing that can work well is putting an LFO on this macro. Probably quite subtle, and because this knob's already at the end of this thing, I'm just going to make it unipolar, so that it will only the LFO will only take it this one way. turning the amount of the LFO way down, because you just want it to be subtle. So this is basically a chorus effect now, what this is doing, but it's sort of like a more complex chorus, because it's not just affecting like one delay, or not just affecting a bunch of delays like separately, or like something like that. It's actually like the LFO is it's changing how spread out the different layers are in time. And yeah, you can chuck other effects into this stuff. So you can chuck like actual reverb. Filters can sound good. You can put stuff in the feedback effects for the delay as well. So like bandpass filters sound really good in it. They can be good for like a dubby kind of sound in a delay feedback loop. So that's just literally just dropping an effect in here, and then basically every time the sound gets delayed and repeats itself, because of the delay feeding back into itself, every time it will get more and more, like if it's a filter, it will get more and more filtered every time. If it's like a distortion you put in there, it'll get more and more distorted every time the sound repeats. Some other stuff that can sound good in this sort of thing are like tremolo plugins, maybe even like convolution, anything really. Just experiment